Hello, and welcome to episode 89 of Uncovering the Corners of the World podcast. I'm your host, Karina Kasmala, using research and my personal experiences where I actually set foot in some of these places. I'll be describing some of the unknown attractions in both the US and around the world, as well as share some of the hidden landmarks of some well-known attractions. On this week's episode, we are finishing our Route 66 road trip in Missouri and enter Kansas. But before we part ways with this show me state, the 24th state of the United States, we stop by in St. Louis to see the National Museum of Transportation. In the previous episode, I mentioned that Route 66 served as a passageway for moving troops and supplies from military reservations. Even though traveling by car declined during World War II, it picked up after the war. Over the next 10 years, more people began to own automobiles. In 1955, 52.1 million cars were registered, compared to 25.8 million that were registered at the end of the war. Route 66 was no longer viewed as a Dust Bowl migration route, but more of a road that led to freedom and thrills as people traveled along the road to the Grand Canyon, to Disneyland, and to the beaches in Southern California. Today, as you drive along Route 66, you will find several museums that showcase cars from that time period, to the ones that were produced later on. However, not every museum can claim the title of being a national museum. In St. Louis, Missouri, on a 42-acre lot, is the National Museum of Transportation. Automobiles, planes, and trains make up more than 190 major exhibits. Founded in 1944, the museum continues to add more towards its collection. The museum includes indoor and outdoor exhibits with some geared towards younger children, such as a train ride that takes passengers on a trip through a part of the museum. Among some of the most notable artifacts of the museum include the Union Pacific No. 4006, also known as Big Boy, which is the largest successful steam locomotive that was ever built, and the 6,600 HP two-engine Union Pacific Diesel No. 6944, the Centennial, which was built in 1971 by General Motors Electromotive Division. On the automotive side of the museum is the notable 1901 automobile built by St. Louis Motor Carriage Company, the oldest of 9 types of cars that are known to still exist. Even though Route 66 is only 12.8 miles long in Kansas, its towns Galena, Riverton, and Baxter Springs are packed with multiple photo opportunities and landmarks to visit before leaving the state. Galena may be a small town with about 2,747 residents, but nonetheless, this small town played a significant role in the 2006 animated film Cars. The movie Cars is one of my favorite animated films that I grew up with. The movie is about a young, ambitious, and self-centered race car named Lightning McQueen, who was set to race at the Piston Cup Racing Series. On the way to California, he gets separated from his transporting truck and ends up in Radiator Springs, a small, practically forgotten town on Route 66. A good portion of the film actually takes place along Route 66, and often some of the real-life motels, service stations, and other landmarks inspired some of the places in the film. Radiator Springs is a fictional town in the movie, believed to be situated somewhere between Kingman and Flagstaff, Arizona. While the town of Galena doesn't make an appearance in the film, there are some of the movie characters scattered around Galena in Kansas. Located at Cano, Texas service station on 119 North Main Street in Galena, Kansas, is Cars on the Route. 2 rusty trucks and a fire truck decorated with a set of eyes and teeth are just 3 of the characters that were anthropomorphized or given human-like qualities to objects. One of these cars is a 1951 Chevrolet boom truck, while in the film, the character went by the name Tow Mater. Voiced by Larry the Cable Guy, Tow Mater was a secondary main character, a resident of Radiator Springs, and eventually becomes Lightning McQueen's friend. Next to these vehicles is a service or gas station with two bright orange pumps that were typically found in the 1950s. The Cano, Texas service station first opened in 1934, and in 2007 it was restored by 4 women: Betty Courtney, Melba Rigg, Renee Charles, and Judy Courtney, who wanted to share Kansas' small part in Route 66 history. Since then, the service station changed owners and added the 3 cars from the movie. When I visited the Cars on the Route service station, the building was closed. However, it is said you can buy sandwiches, snacks, antiques, and Route 66 items from the movie Cars. Regardless, I recommend watching the movie Cars first before visiting. Walking distance from the Cars on the Route, or at 520 South Main Street, is Gearhead Curios. This retro-style information center and souvenir shop was built in 1939 as a Texaco filling station. It was owned by Logan Thompson. The original station closed in 2000. In 2018, it was renovated by Aaron Perry and opened as Gearhead Curios. On one side of the building is a 1951 Hudson Hornet, but designed to look like Doc Hudson from the movie Cars. Voiced by the late actor Paul Newman, Doc Hudson was also a secondary main character, who was a former race car, winning several Piston Cups and became Lightning McQueen's mentor. On the other side of Gearhead Curios are 2 Texaco fuel pumps, a Big Boy hamburger statue, which is a statue of a boy wearing checkered overalls, but instead of holding a hamburger, he holds a stack of tires. And there's the US flag made of license plates on the side of the building. While we're on the topic of cars, down the road from Cars on the Route and Gearhead Curios is Galena's Rest Place, located at Front Street in Galena, where there are a few more Cars-themed landmarks. At the corner of that rest place, or specifically 205 East Front Street, is a car positioned on top of a pole. If you look closer, you'll see that car is a 1949 Mercury 8 police car with painted eyes on its front windshield and Sheriff written on its side. This car also appeared in the movie Cars as the Sheriff of Radiator Springs, voiced by Michael Wallace in the film. Underneath the car is a plaque that dedicates the Sheriff figurine to the voice actor. Right next to the Sheriff is a pavilion with murals painted across the walls, and one part of the pavilion says Luigi's Pit Shop, and exiting that pit shop is a smiling yellow Fiat car. In the movie, the yellow car was named Luigi. He was the owner of Luigi's Casa della Tires and resident of Radiator Springs. Near Luigi is a replica of Lightning McQueen, one of the main characters of the movie. This new addition was revealed by the Kansas Historic 66 Association on the 95th anniversary of Route 66. Behind Lightning McQueen are cardboard figures of tractors painted to represent characters from the film. Besides Cars figures are photo stand-in or photo cutout boards of Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz movie and a biker with a woman. There's also a pole with directions to cities, towns, and other places along Route 66. Our last attraction for this week may be exhilarating for some passengers and drivers, because not every bridge on Route 66 is drivable, besides the one in Cherokee County, Kansas, that is. Located at S.E. Beasley Road in Baxter Springs, Kansas, is Brush Creek Bridge, or Rainbow Bridge. But it can also be reached by driving north on North Willow Avenue out of Baxter Springs, Kansas. A pair of arches with concrete banister railings run parallel to the bridge deck. The Rainbow Bridge was built in 1923 and measures 130 feet. Motorists would pass through the bridge while driving on Route 66 until the interstate was built in the 1960s, which bypassed the bridge. Some may question if the bridge is stable. From personal experience, I can say it is stable. A sign before the bridge says, weight limit 10 tons. There's also a wooden sign right next to the bridge that says, Rainbow Curve Bridge constructed in 1923 over Brush Creek, only remaining Marsh Arch Bridge, Route 66, listed on the National Registry, March 10, 1983. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you're interested in learning more about the history of Route 66, check out the National Park Service website on Route 66. To learn more about the National Museum of Transportation, visit the website tmmot.org. Additional information about cars on the route, be sure to visit the website kansastravel.org. And the article, You Can Visit the Small Town in Kansas That Inspired the Disney Movie Cars, on the Only in Your State website. To read more about Gearhead Curios, check out the website route66roadtrip.com. To read more about Galena Rest Place, check out the article A New Exhibit Makes Its Way to Route 66 on the website 4stateshomepage.com and Travel KS website. Have a great week!